I'm gonna give like a demonstration of how you're going to do that first page on this. I'm gonna try to draw nice and large, right? So the way that's gonna work is we're abandoning vanishing points. We're abandoning eye line. We're again not using rulers. The idea is that we are going to match pitch and angle of what we see with your frame using a bamboo skewer to get that angle. So I'm going to demonstrate how that's going to work. You're going to draw this 5 times on that first page, right? So the reason that we made these like hollow and open, number one, so that we can place objects inside, and then you can use the principles of perspective to get things looking dimensional, right? So does it make sense that you would just stick it right in front of you like this, right? We want to have something more dynamic than that. We want to do something more like a 2-point, which you remember when we drew 2-point, we started with a straight line, right? Then we had 2 vanishing points kind of thing. But we're not gonna worry about that, right? The reason we're not doing vanishing points, we're not using eye line, any of that stuff for this exercise is because the chance that you would be able to look at something in a space and draw it with perspective and actually have, actually be able to follow any lines that might go to some kind of a vanishing point is really, really rare. So, when I'm looking at, say, this table right here that Josie's sitting at, I can take my skewer and I can sort of push that out, and I can do the same thing here. And the paper I would have to have in order to put a vanishing point on here would have to be super, super long. It just doesn't make sense to even do that, right? To here and here, okay? Yeah, it's handy to use that stuff, but you're not gonna really be able to find vanishing points in a realistic setting and situation. Now, if I'm going back here like this, I might see that. So I'm kind of marking out. I always have to close my one eye to do this. I'm marking out where that might go, and I'm seeing that's going to be somewhere around Tegan or even behind Tegan, right? But this one, because it's at such a straight on angle, that's going to go clear. I would imagine that's going to go clear through Amy's office kind of thing, in order for me to really figure out where those points are going to be and draw, right? So we understand how it works, and that's great. But I want to liberate you from this worrisome thing about okay, follow the rules, everything will look right, okay? So we're going to start with the 5 drawings where you arrange your frame in different positions in front of you. Don't just go with straight up here, just turn, that kind of thing. Give yourself an ability to actually see negative space through here, right? We want to be able to see all 4 of these pillars when we're working on this, and that's going to help give those points of reference, right? We will see all of these without a problem. So what we do after that is you're going to select an object up in here, and you're going to place an object inside of this, right? You're going to put it in front of you, okay? And you're going to find some kind of vantage point that's going to help you plot where this, and this work in relationship to what's inside of that. So we establish the box first, or the frame, right? Then we kind of observe the positioning of whatever object we have in there. A really cool one to do is to have maybe somebody take a photograph of your hand inside of here, maybe like this, those kind of things, because this also helps us with foreshortening, right? Because we understand the principles of how these have to recede away, kind of thing. And when we place our hand in a frame like that, we understand how that stuff goes. We can use that sort of framework to allow us to draw with more foreshortening, right? And this doesn't work for everybody again, but it's a good tactic, right? So instead of 5 drawings, 5 different objects, what I'm gonna have you do is first page, you're going to draw those 5 2-point frames with nothing in them, make them clean, make them look good, right? Then 4 objects in your sketchbook. Each one needs to comprise a full page, or needs to have its own page, so don't make a bunch of tiny drawings, right? I'm not going to tell you what to stick inside of there. It should fit. If it goes beyond, above, that's okay, because we can use this as a visual guideline to understand how much of it is within and how much of it might go beyond, right? So if it comes out a little bit, it's not going to be a big deal. It might be difficult if whatever objects you select are coming out this way, because we want to make sure that we create this frame and we can use the relative distance of things from each one of these vertical sort of pillar things, right? So when you do this, and again, we're going to move pretty quickly today because we don't have class Friday, and I want to make sure that you all start your application piece. So we're going to be working in the hallway today, wherever you want to draw, right? So I want to say maybe like about maybe 4:15, right? We'll leave this classroom, head out, and I'll give a demo for that. Okay, so I've got mine kind of set up in front of me here, right? I like to draw vertically. If you think it's going to help you, to draw flat, that's fine, okay? But the way I'd like to do this is I like to take my skewer and actually angle it upon these various areas of the frame. And then I'm looking at how that skewer exists in space, and then I'm transposing that on here, right? The way I like to start with this is I like to start with my leading edge. So I've got this one here, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and get that. It's not very dark. It's something much darker. I'm going to start with that. Then I'm going to go ahead and build the base. So I'm going to look at what that angle is. So I'm kind of lining it up with my eye here. And then I'm going to bring it over. And what I'm doing is when I place it in front of my paper, I'm eyeballing what that angle looks like as I literally have just brought it straight over to copy that angle, right? Same thing here. So this requires some sort of ambidextrous behavior. Then when I go to the top, understanding the principles of, it's more like this. Understanding the principles of two-point perspective, right? This has to be taller than it's going to be back here. So if it's not, then you've done something wrong. Even though, right, it's probably not a huge difference, okay? So let's see, I'm going to go ahead and angle this one back here. And that's going to be pretty flat because I'm almost looking at it straight from my perspective. Okay, so now I'm going to take a look at, and it's kind of hard for you all to see this, but from my perspective, I start here. I look at how much space is in between these two pillars, how much is in between these two pillars. Where does that final fourth pillar behind there exist in between those? Those are going to be really important for you. So this side is skinnier than this side quite a bit. So I feel like what I can do is I can go ahead and just create a line here for that. I might pencil sight that. So I'm just going to go from like the leading pillar, measure that. I'm going to come over and I'm going to see about how far away that next pillar is. Actually, what I'm seeing is between these two pillars from my perspective, and again, I'm flattening space by closing one eye, is about the same as those two pillars in space. And you'll probably find that to be true a lot of the times, especially if you did a good job constructing this. So that means that whatever this dimension is here, once I establish this, I know that I can bring that straight over. So I'm going to go ahead and pencil sight that once more. I'm going to see how many of those fit in here. So like 1, 2, looks like 2.5. So I can take this and move over 1, 2, and about 1/2. Bring a straight line down here. And again, since I pencil sighted this other element here, I can take that and just straight drop that right in here. Okay, so now I've got to find this angle back here. Now again, if I had a vanishing point, I would just draw that straight to the vanishing point. But again, the real life does not incorporate these things. So that's why we're looking at pitches. And you'll be using this quite a bit when we move out into the hallway. So now I'm just going to keep that pitch on there. And it looks like, and I just kind of try to memorize that as I'm going through. So since I have a connection here, right, am I gonna have to get a pitch for that back one? What do you think? I shouldn't have to, right? Because I know where this ends, I know where that crosses over, right? So now I can just take a line straight through those. And if I did it correctly, this will be shorter than this right here because they recede into space back this way, right? Okay, so let's see, what else do I got here? I brought this back this way. I am gonna have to define where that overlap is gonna exist here. So I do have to get that pitch back here. My hope is that we'll use these tools and eventually they will become something that you just see on your own, right? So I'm copying that pitch, I'm keeping my hand the same way, I'm coming over and I just, boom, drop that line in there. Now, since I've got that back plane worked out, I can just bring this straight over to this. And again, if I did that right, this should be shorter than this because it goes back into space, right? Yeah, same here. This should be bigger than this, and it is, just a little bit. This should be bigger than this. I don't really see a huge difference there, but okay. So you're gonna draw 5 of these. I want you to try doing things like this. That way you can practice different pitches, right? It's smart to start with your leading edge, okay? And then figure out how we can get those other pillars to work out. So essentially, you're gonna be filling this page with several of these different drawings here. So like, if you feel like you don't need the skewer, like sometimes what I do is I just like, I'm gonna draw this one a little bit smaller. Sometimes what I do when I'm working this out is I'll put my pencil on there and I'll keep that as a pitch, and then when I see that, I'll follow what I have there. Same thing here. Okay, so like from this perspective, things are getting a little weird. I probably have to use my skewer to figure out how that's gonna go back into space. Line that up. So it's going to take a little bit of practice for you to be able to draw sort of transparently, but you'll get there. I'm going to pencil sight this front box and compare that to what I have going back into space. And I actually see that when I measure this, it's the same distance here, right? But we know it's not the same distance. Again, it goes back into space, and that foreshortening is what creates that. So I can take this, I can move over like that. Boom, I know that's supposed to go there. But the one in the back is gonna go at sort of a different angle as such. And then I kind of have this weird situation where this back one here almost kind of lines up with this one because of my perspective, right? Okay, so that's 2, boom. Clean them up, right? To where you don't have a lot of these extra guideline things happening. And it's important that you actually practice this quite a bit with this, because when we get out into the application portion of things, this is all we're gonna use. This and pencil sighting and basic units of measure, right? Questions for me on this? Resist the temptation to just draw symbolically, like, oh, I know how to draw a cube, right? The reason I made these like longer or taller than they would be like this way is so that we can fit stranger shapes into that. And because it shows a little bit more depth as such. So like, why do you think that this one looks not like this one, right? Looks closer to a cube. Thinking about that. Right, so like, because I had this angled toward me, right? I've limited the amount of space that I can actually see it going back. So sometimes that's going to happen depending on how this angles toward you, right? Cool. All right, use your skewer, hang on to it.